So my colored girls never thought your rainbow was enough. Trying to make it through this life, down this road is kind of tough. They crossing out in vain, you gon' make it just because. Even payment makes this life all it is, ever was. For my colored girls, never thought your rainbow was enough. Make it through this life, down this road is kind of tough. They crossing out in vain, you gon' make it just because. Even payment makes this life all it is. Golden lady, I got just a thing for you. A yellow brick road, some ruby studded shoes. I see you on my screen. Welcome. Thank you for joining. We're just gonna wait for Pecolia Manigo from Bay Area Plan. Yes, Tyra, you made it on time today. Yay! Thank you for joining. We're just waiting for Pecolia to join, and I'm listening to the music of Ryan Nicole Austin from Oakland, and here comes Pecolia. So turn this off, and thank you, and thank you for this one. I was trying to get in front of this today, though. The fight for the schools students deserve. That was from the teacher's strike. But let me bring up Pecolia Manigo. Yeah, thank you. See, I'll show everybody. We can see all the posters we got here. We got Helaba, Occupy. It's amazing art by all these artists in Oakland. There's some Fabiana Rodriguez on my walls. Some CC Carpillo. This is from Dignidad Reblable. And let's see who else do I have. Yeah. So that's who's on my walls. But I don't know what happened to Pecolia. Let me invite her one more time. Did that work, Pecolia? Mm-hmm. Pecolia, maybe you can ask to join if you are able to. Thanks you all for joining. We're just waiting for Pecolia to join us. Sent you a couple invitations, Pecolia. But while we're waiting for them to join, thank you all for joining today. We're going to be talking about school closures that are happening here in Oakland and the demands from, hey, what's up, Sisway? Pecolia, you're unable to join. You might need to be joining on your phone or iPad. You can't join from your computer. You have to join from iPad or whatever app, something that has that Instagram app. You can't use it from a browser. So if you're there. What's up? Look at all these beautiful people joining today. We're just waiting for Pecolia to get set up so she can join us today. Today we're going to be talking about school closures, but you know, Monday Meals is just like an opportunity for us to get together and have a conversation over lunch. Usually invite a comrade up to talk about what the work that they're doing and where they're at with that work. So I'm going to try one more time. I don't know, Pecolia, if you're on the iPad. Okay.
Maybe you can ask to join, Pecolia. Request to join. You definitely need to join on your phone or your um on
I'll
your
cancel my support meetings.
Okay.
And then
there
I'll
you
be back
go.
on here
Yay!
at 12:30.
We did it.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy. It's a crazy day.
Are you on another call?
I was for a second. I'm off now. Hey, family.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I was trying to jump on the reparations Instagram, and it wasn't working. So appreciate y'all's patience with me. Not sure what happened.
You're here now.
I am. It's exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, and you know what the thing is that what everybody doesn't know too is that when we started Monday Meals last year, Pecolia was our first guests, and we were talking about reparations for Black students then, and we're back here again to talk about school closures.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, not as in like just in the last year again, but as in the last decade again, and it's not a new thing. But I'm just gonna let's introduce you. Pecolia Manigo is the executive director, or co-director.
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 Shout out to Belinda Bellinger.
Yes, Belinda. I actually knew Pecolia and Belinda when they were young youth organizers coming up in the movement and leading a lot of work back then around schools not jails and books not bars and all that fun back in the day work. So this ain't like this is not something that Pecolia just been doing right now and working with Plan, but has been doing for more than half of your lifetime.
24 and counting.
What? So, so today, this is Monday Meals. I'm Liz Huck. I'm the executive director for Oakland Rising, and Pecolia and I go way back, many, many years. But Monday Meals is an opportunity for me to sit down and chat with my comrades over what's going on in Oakland and what they're doing. And it really stems from this time when I was doing a side hustle where I was cooking meals and I was selling them. And I called it Monday Meals. And then I would go to drop it off or pick it. You know, I would go and stand at this one location and people would come and pick it up. And then I get an opportunity to like check in with people and talk to them. So this kind of is in that vein. And so we always start the Monday Meals with two questions. What are you having for lunch? Are you having
Good
lunch,
question.
Pecolia?
Well, let's see what I can get ordered. I actually really want to say like I have salads in the refrigerator, but for those that follow on Twitter, know we just got out of a county board of education meeting. Their budget program and budget committee was having a conversation about the role of our superintendent, L.K. Monroe. So I got a little distracted and forgot to order my food, but I'm going to have some Thai. I think I'm going to go with Thai, or maybe barbecue. Which way should I go? What's your vote?
I say barbecue because I think the last time you were on Monday Meals with me, you had Thai food. You were ordering lunch then too, Pecolia. Dear friend.
So I got a meal bias, huh? I love curry. I don't hide it. I don't hide it, people. I don't hide it. I love it.
It's so
all curry.
It's
all
so
curry.
Delicious,
Ain't nothing
right?
Exactly. Curry is amazing.
For everybody else,
I think I'm gonna go with brisket.
See, that sounds good, right? See, everybody else, if you're joining in the chat, you should let us know what you're having for lunch because I want to know that you're eating well, because that's the mom in me, the cook in me wants to make sure that everybody's eating well. Hey, what's up, Anne? So I brought some soybean paste stew that I made yesterday, and someone's going to drop off some Korean ribs for me. So I'm about to eat yummy, yummy in my tummy.
I like the idea of the Korean rib.
But the other thing that we always ask everybody is, how are you nourishing yourself? Your heart, your mind, your spirit. I know that this last week with the reparations for Black students and around the school closures, there's been every day there's been an action. So the organizing, as you all know what organizing is like, if you do organize, when you're doing that, sometimes taking care of yourself like gets pushed to the side, and we put ourselves on the line. And so I wonder, what act of nourishment are you doing this week for yourself to get through this?
Well, it's nourishing to always see folks, putting their all into that. So that gives me energy. But, I've never hid that, for me, being spiritually balanced is really critical. So I will always pray every day. I went to temple yesterday, and it was really sweet. And I appreciate, people respecting to the degree that they could, that sacred time for me. I'm drinking water, even though I think I left mine somewhere around the house as I was walking in that committee meeting. And exactly the same thing. So you may see me, actually, let me go find mine. But you might get a little bit of view of my house. But other than that, also just checking in, having some sun, checking in with the body, keeping my body nourished, and trying to be realistic that this is about staying as focused as possible on the win. Folks know me very well. I get really entrenched in this. And, slowing down when we can, and going as slow as we can without going so slow. Not turtle slow, but it's some kind of slow. I don't know. Organizing slow, then organizing fast.
You know what? I want to call it like at a pace of awareness.
That is true.
Right? You got to move at a pace where that you can be aware of what's going on around you. And I'm pretty sure this is something that a lot of people who live with violence and trauma in their life, or who have that in the past, that they become like super hyper aware.
Right.
And they move at this like amazing pace.
Right.
And oftentimes, though, we think that we're moving at such a pace that we can be aware of so many things, but it depletes us, right? And so to be able to like move, like take a moment, take a breath, and like step back and go, okay, what am I really feeling? What's really going on around me? What do I need to do in this moment? I think is really critical. So moving at the pace of awareness. How about that? I just coined that.
You did just coin that, I love it.
I feel hella smart.
You're so funny. You are so funny. I love it. I love it. I really do.
I gotta take the wins. Yeah. So tell us what's going on. Last year you came on, and we've had a few folks come on to talk about reparations for Black students in Oakland. And there was this really, really strong push last year about this time to get the board to pass the resolution, right? Because they were trying to not even listen and not even hear the resolution, right? And there was a really strong push by the community to get it on the agenda to be heard. There were 13 demands. 12 of those demands were met, the last one being school closures that they would not vote on. And so the resolution passed with those 12 demands being met, and the last one being the school closures, where we are today, 12 months later. catch us up to speed. Like those who haven't really been following, I know that like for a lot of folks, they might think, oh, suddenly it's just like school closures is on our plate right now. But I know that there's been organizing that's been happening over the entire year. We had actually Sisway was on here from Spirit Works Oakland, and he was on Monday Meals with me talking about the family circles that you all were having, listening circles, and that was beautiful. So yeah, so catch us up to speed so that we can hear about it, and then know that organizing hasn't just been around the school closures, but it's been going on for a while now.
Wow. Yeah. So we've been at this work. I've been at this work since 2017. Started with the listening sessions. We kind of gave folks that story a little bit just to catch up folks who might not know. So we started with listening sessions with Black parents, students, educators, principals, teachers, classified staff, community members, after school providers, and that was where the demands from the campaign developed from. And then looking at the demands, looking at kind of the context of the landscape, we saw an opportunity to really come into OUSD with all demands in the resolution, which we named after the campaign, the Reparations for Black Students resolution.
And who was in that? Who's part of the reparations?
Yeah, so the Reparations for Black Students campaign was born out of the Justice for Oakland Students Coalition, which is a coalition of community organizations, Black and Brown and allied organizations, who have been really trying to articulate what justice for Black students looks like. What does equitable education that ensures that Black and Brown students are centered in our district, in our city, and how do we advance forward a multi-year strategy to achieve that demand, justice for Black, justice for Oakland students, excuse me. And so the campaign is anchored by the Black Working Group of the coalition, which includes Bay Area Plan, Oakland Education Association, Parent Voices Oakland. And we've been in a process since December of 2020 of really then looking at that demands platform and putting it into a resolution with Director Van Cedric Williams to introduce in January of 2021, which you all know. And it's been an effort to really pass it. The first introduction of the resolution was on January 26, 2021. And the first read we had to fight for, which was February 12th of 2021. Second read was on the 24th, when our lovely director tried to gut it. Came back on the 24th of March.
The president, right? Shanti Gonzalez
Shanti, she didn't try to gut it, but what Shanti did was try to make sure it wasn't even heard on the agenda. It's so much that happened, right? So much, right? We often joke about how we need to put the clips out so folks can relive year to date what happened on the 12th, right?
I feel like we need a Netflix special on this.
We do. I love that. Anyone out there want to help us with that? Holler.
There's hella drama.
Hella drama. So you got that. Then passed the resolution. We recovered, self-care, hashtag. And then we got back up. I don't even think we had like a week off. I think we had like maybe a couple days, and then we're like, all right, where y'all at? And started meeting with the district to stand up the very first important thing, which was the task force, the Black Students and Families Thriving Task Force, which took way longer than we anticipated to really be thoughtful and intentional and attempt a collaborative process with OUSD around it. Task force got stood up in October and has been meeting on the first and third Thursday of every month. So October, November, and December. to really do the things that the resolution asks: monitor its implementation, develop a plan, develop indicators, Black thriving indicators, and a thriving fund. And the three things are really critical because they are the foundation of how we believe OUSD kind of doesn't stay consistent with. There's not a plan for Black students. There's not measurements that we all agree are culturally relevant to Black students and their lived experience in this city. And we all definitely see that the district is not invested in a transparent way in Black students. And that's what we were proposing the task force take on. Task force just made a presentation that was on January 26th January 27th, get my dates in years, but finally presented a little bit of an update on that work. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to stand with the task force because we got word of the board exempting itself from two really critical provisions in the resolution that we care about. One was investing in community engagement before school closures, and the second was a racial equity impact analysis before any proposed closures. So if folks remember, this is one of the contentious points of the resolution in 2021, which was we were demanding that majority Black schools be exempted from any school closures, and the board did not accept that. In fact, they brought FICMAT and the state trustee in to say that they would rescind the resolution if it exempted majority Black schools. And so fast forward to the same date timeline, we're back defending the very schools that we were trying to, that we were organizing. I don't want to say trying, we were organizing to exempt from this very painful, very unequal process. And it's very sad. Some of the pain we've heard from the community is very real. Some of the deja vu that organizers are having is very real because we challenge OUSD and have consistently challenged OUSD on this. So that's kind of like the resolutions
and this is
implementation.
not just like this last year of organizing. Like people have been fighting school closures, like we started off
for a while
now. And
yeah,
you know, when I was listening into the last school board meeting, two things came to mind. One was how fucking heartbreaking, excuse my language, how heartbreaking it was to hear the students talk about what impact it would have on them. And then second, in relation to that is, so this is like 2.1 on that. First note is 1.2 is that some students couldn't say anything because they were using Chromebooks with old Zoom from the school. From
which,
the school
if folks
district.
remember, was a big part of our demand as well. Create an emergency fund and ensure Black students have access to technology.
So here we are.
Here we are.
The irony and
of it all.
And that was one of the things like that we've been talking about. This is what equity looks like, and nobody seems to know. And that was that leads us to the second observation, my second observation, which was we've been talking about this since they've been trying to introduce charter schools into Oakland. And that this was part of some of the small school movement, and this goes way back to when Don Parada and Jerry Brown and now Libby Schaff, right? Like this has been a continuation of sort of the city's movement to displace people, right? It goes hand in hand. Like I think a lot of people think like the school district is like siloed unto itself in Oakland. And in fact, that's not true, right? Because just for example, KIPP Charter School is owned and run by the Fisher family.
Right.
Who's the Fisher family, y'all? They own the A's. Right. And what are they trying to do? build Howard Terminal on
Right.
taxpayer money,
Right.
right? So it's not like it, and that is
Nothing's
not.
in
It's not such.
isolation.
It's not some just conspiracy theory, right? And it's not just like the Fishers, but it's like it is it is an agenda by people who were coming out of really like the war on drugs and all of the things that was going on in the 80s and 90s in Oakland, and trying to change the face of Oakland. So we are now where we are today, and school closures go hand in hand with changing the face of Oakland. Meaning, without being obtuse, is to mean that there is an agenda to displace and remove Black people from Oakland.
Yeah. I think that, the thing to emphasize on this too, that most folks probably don't know we are also doing is we've been doing walks in the community, phone banking.
Mm-hmm.
We are committed in this campaign to center the experience of Black students and Black families, Black educators, and even Black principals. And no one's exempt, We've heard from students and parents and educators way before this list was publicized that they definitely feel like Oakland doesn't want them. They definitely feel like there is this massive push out. Folks feel trapped between a hard rock and a hard rock. And
you took that idiom and just like took it up a notch.
A hard rock and a hard rock, right? And one of the family members that in our core leaders, that, I remember when she said this and I was like, that's a quote I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life. But she was just saying like, her son recently graduated last year, and she was like, I felt like I ended an abusive relationship with OUSD.
Oof.
Right? When you hear that, it hits you, right?
Ouch.
And that's how everyone that's Black has some story, right? Especially in the flatlands, where folks aren't used to being on Zoom, where folks aren't getting technology, where the internet signal, whether it's Wi-Fi or landline or whatever, is not adequate for students to have done distance learning, let alone for students to be able to participate in a board meeting. So I do think we have a really big issue in Oakland that can't just be siloed to, the education needs to organize over here and housing needs to organize over there. I think we have a significant need for a real conversation around what is Oakland, all of our leaders, doing to stabilize the Black community. And we cannot just allow folks to keep putting out false statements around Black Lives Matter and not see the action behind that. We have seen a significant level of engagement since these school closures have been proposed, because we've pushed community to demand that engagement. Often our elected officials are not held accountable. They are not participating in a democratic process on our behalf. And I think that it's a really sad reality that most of our elected officials, have never been to our schools. Some of our folks have never walked the communities that our campaign is walking and had real conversations with Black folks and understanding their real pain and the challenges they've dealt with pre-pandemic and then what got worse in this pandemic, right? And so, people see the showing up at the board meetings as one of the pieces that we're working on, and people see the task force, but the real work is staying grounded in what's happening with Black students, what's happening with Black children, right? And especially when it comes to, I distinctly remember our Black daycare providers. These are Black businesses that were impacted, got no bailout really from the state, still struggling to meet the needs of all our community, whether they're Black or brown. And, the cost of protective equipment is not something factored into a lot of businesses' overhead at this point, right?
Right.
But we parents, we workers, we need childcare, right? We cannot participate in this economy of taking care of our children without being able to work. And a lot of folks don't see the correlation between folks needing to work because there's no relief. There's no COVID relief coming from our city, our state, our federal to make sure folks, when they get sick with COVID, can stay home, right? There's been almost a half a year or more where we haven't had that policy in place that was there in the beginning of the pandemic, right? So you see this deep feeling in our community of folks feeling like, dang, are these people representing us? Because the things I need to be able to not get COVID, to be able to economically survive this pandemic, and to make sure my children are getting a quality education, a equitable education, I would even beg, because I question what quality looks like when a district is saying that they have to close schools in the middle of a pandemic and they're disproportionately impacting Black students, brown students, and even disabled students. Can we have that conversation?
Okay.
Right?
Please. And like, the thing is like when we saw the resolution getting passed, minus the one demand, which was to exempt Black schools, predominantly Black schools, from being closed, then that was an inevitability. That means that the school district and the school board already knew that those were an inevitability, right? And somebody texted me earlier and they were like, I said that the school closures were racist, and they told me that it was, that was just some silly liberal progressive agenda or messaging. And I was like, did they look at the map like of the schools? Because it is clear there was no discussion, at least on the table, to look at which schools not to close were definitely is a part of the conversation, I should say, right? Like,
absolutely. I mean, I think even recently, I want to say one of our amazing allies posted something, and I don't remember which platform. It's all a blur at this point, but posted the list from the California Department of Ed of like all the schools in Oakland and their sizes, and you see the charters most definitely are under that quote unquote 304 that the district is saying is a sustainable size.
right.
And then you also see there are majority white schools who are also right there, like 350 or 3 something. So there was a very clear decision by the district to go below a certain, threshold to, because at one point in the fall, they were saying 400 elementary schools under 400 were not sustainable. And then all of a sudden,
suddenly that number shifted.
It went down to 304.
Yeah.
So when we see things like that level of inconsistency, people say, oh, y'all are wrong for centering majority Black schools. Nothing is wrong with centering something. It just is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. And that's okay. We cannot get to justice being comfortable.
Thank you.
I'm going to say that again for some folks.
Say it again. Say it
we are not going to get to justice by being comfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable to get to justice. To get to equity, you're going to be uncomfortable.
Right. Exactly.
But it's not the job of Black folks. It ain't even the job of brown folks to make people feel comfortable about when you harm us. And that's one of the things another core leader says, Ms. Taiwo. She says it very clearly. And for those that don't know, she does a podcast with her family on Facebook. Check them out. I'm going to find it out so I can drop it. But they talk about, what is racism? Because some of us throw this term around as if we really understand it, right? When you believe that certain folks are superior and thus should have a superior experience over other folks, That's what we're talking about. So when we say, I'm not even gonna get into the definition of stuff. I'm just gonna get to the superior and inferior, okay? When you say that certain folks don't ever have to experience something, you are putting them in a superior situation.
Thank you. Y'all didn't think you were coming to school today, huh? You thought you were coming to watch IG Live and you came to school. Because this is the part about it that makes me think about our ideas about and how much white supremacy is centered in our thinking and I'm wearing my decolonized earrings, y'all.
Oh, I didn't have time today to put some. I'm like licking my lips because I'm like, dang, I'm chappy. Sorry, y'all. It's been a day. Y'all gonna love on me anyway, though. It's okay.
Let's decolonize the way we think about this, right? Because it's like, okay, well, maybe these schools are doing better, right? Maybe these schools in the hills above the 580 are doing better. And that then all of those students from the flatlands, all those Black and brown students now have to travel to these white schools.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Let me correct you. They ain't going to them schools.
Thank you.
Them schools don't want them.
That's right.
They ain't an option.
They're gonna merge. Thank you. That's right. I was thinking, I'm sorry, where I was going with this, I'm a little tired, y'all.
No, it's all good. I just want to correct that one thing.
I'm so glad you did. Because actually, we're not moving them to those schools. But when we think about like the better schools, right?
Right.
You think of the hills. And so like the idea that like desegregating schools was actually the best thing for our students, right? Because it meant that they were going to white schools. Instead of like, let's actually make all the schools like accessible to everybody. Right. And what if we had like actually thought about this really differently? I'm diverging from the full conversation, but like really like those schools are doing well and the better schools are the ones in the hills. And then we are left with the idea that what we have again is that we are moving and working from a place of scarcity. They don't have to, like the kids in the hills, the parents in the hills, they don't got to worry about that because they don't. But we do, and we're told that we need to. And we're saying, and what you're saying is that Black students and Black families and brown students and Asian students, all of us that are, that this is for us to, that we need to worry and think about those things because we shouldn't be having to fight for these little scraps because we know there's an abundance.
Right. I think the other thing to just add a layer in is we are sitting in a state, and I have to keep repeating this for folks, that has 41 billion, not million, not an M, a B, $1 billion in a surplus.
Oh, no, it's 57 billion.
Oh, well, let's just go on and let the number keep growing, right? At the same time that the state is saying we want to acknowledge the historical, roots of our racism, let's have a statewide reparations task force. At the same time that the superintendent of public instruction is saying we want to acknowledge that there's something unique happening with Black students, right? At the same time that we fought this campaign to win this resolution and said, let's look at what reparations would look like for Black students in this city, right? Because we know there's been harm done, because we keep hearing it. Every time we go out in the community, we hear from students, we hear from parents. They talk about, they tried to close our school back in 2004, 2005. These are not isolated events.
Right.
So we got all the what I call the facade of we want to be right, we want to do equity, we want to fight for justice, we want to make Black lives real. But ain't no check got cut.
That's right.
Ain't no check been cut. Instead, we're getting districts, not just Oakland. I want to make sure folks understand this part too.
Thank
you. We got districts across the whole state with majority Black schools too, and
it
Black
in Chicago
and brown communities. it's happening across the country, but in our state right now, we got schools and communities that are destabilized.
That's right.
And the only reason they're destabilized is because for some reason, our government believes this pandemic is over.
That's right.
And it said, put your kid back into school. We don't care if COVID is spreading, put them back into school. But oops, we're not going to make sure you have masks. Oops, we're not going to make sure that you have the stability to keep these schools as community schools who have stepped up to make sure families have food, PPE, access to health care. That all happened because of the very things we're demanding, community schools.
That's right.
If our schools were not in our neighborhoods, many of our families would not have survived this pandemic. So you cannot double speak. You cannot say out one mouth, we're so happy these schools were there to help us do our job as government. And but oh, wait, you're not able to stabilize because of enrollment. Well, we can't stabilize because of enrollment because you didn't put the supports in place to make sure families could stay. Your eviction moratorium didn't prevent evictions.
Thank you.
Right?
And I mean, and this is exactly what the school board has done, right? With passing of this resolution, they're like, hey, we took care of it. We are for this. And then you get on the school board meeting and they're framing everything as like these schools will actually, we're going to change the way these schools are functioning so that they are helping Black students to thrive. And
okay, prove it.
Exactly. Thank you.
We have yet to see anything.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's like part of it, right? Where there is this there's a kind of a double speak that I think you're alluding to, or not alluding to, that you are like pinpointing to, right? And we don't, and it sounds like what you're saying is that that's not what we need. We don't need the double speak. What we need is action.
You know, the thing that I want to say is, in addition to all of that, thank you so much, a different way was possible.
That's right.
When schools came back in August, people were begging for a conversation. We didn't get a conversation.
Never.
We got, go to your school, shut up, and, you know, make it happen. We had a whole massive surge of cases hit the schools because folks, you know, let me pick on Superintendent Johnson Tramel's own words. As long as COVID is spreading in our communities, it's impossible to think that schools that are based in our communities would be exempt from that, right? So what we are asking is for what we already won. We already won a district commitment to community engagement.
That's right.
What we're lacking is the district fulfilling its side of that. The community keeps showing up to the board meetings, and I want to give props to us. We keep coming up. We keep saying our needs. We keep giving ideas. What we lack is a district that responds. We lack a superintendent. We lack school board members who actually then believe the democratic process means you're accountable to do the actual engagement.
That's right.
Not with your handpicked people, not with your handpicked allies, but with the actual people who attend these actual schools, with the actual educators putting their lives on the line, with the actual principals who get up and open these buildings, with the actual custodians, with the actual community-based organizations. I could go down the list. But what we're not getting is democracy.
That's right.
What we're not getting is our voice respected. And so when we show up tonight and tomorrow, and we keep telling you, here are alternative ideas. We already went to the county earlier, and I appreciate everyone that jumped on that meeting because it was critical for the county to see that the way they were representing that they have no role is wrong.
Right.
It's wrong. You are elected, Superintendent L.K. Monroe, to ensure that you support districts to not be fiscally challenged. So you cannot double speak and say at the one time, oops, I didn't know that the district was fiscally challenged, or I've been trying to support them and then slap them on the hand when they are saying, you know, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and they don't do it. Like, that's her message. So I don't know about you, but when my kids say, I'm gonna do this, and they don't follow through, I have a conversation with them. Like, hey, what happened? Why didn't you get this done? You know? Right?
Yes.
That's what we do.
Yes. And then
Now, some of us,
sometimes
it's
there's
not like that.
sometimes you gotta give somebody a timeout. Sometimes you gotta give somebody accountability measures, and you got to say, I'm sorry, you go talk to that person and apologize and
Right.
figure out how you're gonna make that right.
Right. So this is a moment where, contrary to what board members and the superintendent of our district is saying, contrary to what the county is saying, contrary to what the state is saying, that we all of a sudden have to balance OUSD's finances. Just a year ago, every single one of these people said to do this very action in the middle of a pandemic was unconscionable. 1 year ago, they were urging us as parents to trust them, to believe in them when they said it was safe for our kids to come back to school. They even passed a bill at the legislature
The thing
and
is,
said,
too,
if you didn't do it.
the thing too is that, I mean, just like bringing it hyper local back to Oakland, right? Is
Yeah.
that like hella people didn't know about it. It wasn't just, it was just like a small group of top administrators that knew that this was moving, and then
And that's our
suddenly
point.
like all of the schools have to hop on board, and
And they didn't even go to the school.
and the timeline for this is ridiculous, right?
It is 10 days.
Like, that's
10 days.
ridiculous. Like, to adjust and to think that families can just make that adjustment that quickly is insulting, right? To think about, like, just even like me coordinating today, like my kids pick up and drop off, and like things that I have to do with my kids after school today. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go here first, and you're gonna go here, and we're gonna do this, and then it's like the amount of work to just like move my kids, and I have a car, right? Like, the ability to move them, to have to do that is so much work. And to do that in the morning, to think about like public transportation. I love public transportation. I'd much rather take public transportation. But in order to take my kids to their school, it would take an hour and a half on the bus, right? And so imagine like what that change would mean for families. Like,
We don't have to imagine. We have families telling us.
Thank you. It's ludicrous. It's so ludicrous.
Yeah.
So we are, I want to respect your time. I want to respect everybody's time. I know that there's so much more to get into this, but
yeah. And let me just clarify, because there was one comment. Schools aren't going to close in 10 days. What we're saying is that the board is making this decision in 10 days. And part of why I want to just clarify that before we end, because my food's sitting on the porch, hopefully, or it's been donated to the community. But part of what we want to clarify and wrap up on is, without our consistent action in the next 24 hours, it is quite possible that our school board would make a misguided, misdirected decision to close 16 schools, some of which would be closed effectively the end of this school year, and some would be closed in the following school year. And it's destabilizing all of our schools, because it's not just the schools that would be closed, but the schools that they would then redirect students to. And so I want to make sure we're really clear. No one is not going to be touched by this decision.
Yeah.
It's going to have repercussions across our whole city. And we don't have ourselves focused on the things that we're critically needing to focus on, people.
That's right. That's right. And so go to Reparations for Black Students. Look at the demands that the coalition is asking for, and getting people to show up to tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow night at 5 p.m. And we're going to be posting there. You can follow Reparations for Black Students, and you can also go to Oakland Rising. You can go to Bay Area Plan. I'm sure the information is out there,
Oakland
y'all.
Education Association.
Yeah,
Yes,
make
plenty
sure
of
that you
places.
show up for that. Yes, there will be a link, and so it's all over the place, y'all. So make sure that you show up for that. If you have it there, we'll try to we'll link it in our bio through Oakland Rising. And I did want to address one question that was earlier in the chat around that there are families of color, Black students who go to charter schools.
Yeah.
And this is not about, what we're talking about is not really about the Black families and the choices that they have to make. It's really about the school system and how charter schools and the privatization of our school system, one, as Pecolia just pointed out, is about destabilizing our communities. But it is also about bringing up a land grab for our public land that OUSD owns that will eventually go to developers. And the developers, their desire is to change Oakland because they want to get the top dollar for their bang, right? They want the biggest bang for their buck here in Oakland. And what that means is that they are going to push poor people out. They're going to push Black people out and continue to push out this city in a way and change the face of this city. And so it is inextricably linked. School closures will lead to more gentrification and displacement of Black families and change the face of Oakland. So this fight is not only a fight for these families today, for their needs right now, but it is about the future of Oakland. So show up tomorrow, let your voice be heard. Last week, the last board meeting went till 2:30 in the morning, taking public comment.
It might go that long tomorrow night, but
so if you can't get on tomorrow night, at least write in, do e-comment, let them know, email every school board member, let them know how you don't want this. Call out Gary Yee, who took $150,000 from Bloomberg on his campaign, Amy Ng, as she's leaving her position and her role, Shanti Gonzalez. Call out Sam Davis because he campaigned on the platform that he would not close schools. So know this, call them out, let them know that this is not the decision you want to see. This is not the Oakland you want to see, and let them know. So thank you so much, P, for showing up today.
thanks.
I miss you.
I miss you too.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll see each other soon.
I'm sure we will.
All right, Kaviti. Love you.
Thank you. Bye, you all.
Bye.